Mark Bennett was the kind of man who seemed to have it all: wealth, power, a picture-perfect family, and the admiration of an entire community. But behind the gilded curtains of his life lay a web of secrets and lies that would ultimately lead to his untimely death, and a scandal that would rock the town of Westbridge to its core. At the heart of the chaos was Alyssa Carter, Mark's 22-year-old secretary. Young, ambitious, and dangerously alluring, Alyssa was more than just Mark's assistant. Their torrid affair was an open secret among his staff. But what no one knew was just how far Mark had gone to keep Alyssa happy. He'd showered her with gifts: an upscale apartment, a luxury car, and most shocking of all, a secret deal granting her a 49% share in his company, effective only after his death. Alyssa, for all her coy smiles and whispered promises, was in the game for more than love. One weekend, Mark told Clara he had a business trip, and instead took Alyssa house shopping. He planned to buy her a waterfront property, something private, just for them. At the third house that the Porudasarus they visited, a sprawling villa with panoramic ocean views, Mark's restraint broke. In the empty living room, as sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, he pressed Alyssa against the wall. Their passion consumed them as they embraced in the vacant house, their whispers echoing off the bare walls. Later on the terrace, with the ocean breeze cooling their flushed faces, they gave in to their desires again, the waves crashing below providing a symphony to their forbidden acts. Not long after, Mark surprised Alyssa with a brand new luxury car. After signing the paperwork at the dealership, they drove aimlessly until they reached a secluded forest. Parking in a quiet clearing, Mark leaned over, his hand sliding onto Alyssa's thigh. What followed was a heated encounter in the back seat, their laughter and moans swallowed by the dense trees surrounding them. Clara Bennett, Mark's wife of 10 years, was no fool. She had suspected for months. But when she stumbled upon a series of explicit texts and photos on Mark's phone, her worst fears were confirmed. Clara caught Mark and Alyssa in a compromising position late one night, her heartbreak turning to rage as she confronted them. She filed for divorce the very next day, determined to protect her children and claim her share of the empire they had built together. Enter Ryan Pierce, the charismatic attorney Clara hired to represent her in the brutal divorce proceedings. Handsome, confident, and with a reputation for winning even the toughest cases, Ryan was everything Clara needed, both in the courtroom and outside of it. Their professional relationship quickly blurred into something much more intimate. Late-night strategy sessions turned into passionate encounters. Ryan suggested they grab a drink. At a dimly lit bar, their conversation turned personal as the hours stretched into the night. Fueled by alcohol and the intimacy of shared confessions, Ryan's hand brushed against Clara's. She didn't pull away. Instead, as the bar buzzed with life around them, their connection deepened. Under the cover of low light and murmured conversations, they shared stolen touches and a lingering kiss that hinted at more. Alyssa, ever the opportunist, had followed them. Hidden in a corner booth, she captured photos of their flirtations. Clara's hand on Ryan's arm, their faces inches apart. The undeniable heat between them. The affair escalated. One evening, after everyone had left the law office, Clara stayed behind, claiming she needed to review documents. Ryan joined her, and the tension between them finally snapped. In the privacy of Ryan's office, they gave in to their desires, unaware that across the street Alyssa watched from a neighboring building, her camera clicking. The grainy images of Clara and Ryan's passionate embrace would become her most powerful weapon. But Ryan had his own secrets. What Clara didn't know was that Ryan wasn't just her attorney, he was on Mark's payroll. His original mission was clear: ensure Clara lost the case and that Mark maintained control of his wealth and children. Yet, as Ryan spent more time with Clara, he found himself genuinely falling for her. Torn between loyalty to Mark and his growing love for Clara, Ryan was caught in a trap of his own making. As the court date approached, Mark grew more ruthless. Alyssa handed him the damning photos of Clara and Ryan, which he planned to use to destroy her credibility and secure full custody of their children. But Ryan, torn between loyalty to Mark and his growing feelings for Clara, was caught in an impossible position. His initial plan to sabotage Clara crumbled as he realized he couldn't betray her. Clara, unaware of Ryan's duplicity, began to see him as her only ally. She confessed her fears about losing her children and her hatred for Mark's manipulation. Ryan, racked with guilt, knew there was only one way to ensure Clara's victory and his happiness. Mark had to be removed from the equation. Mark's lifeless body was discovered in his home office. a single gunshot wound to the chest. The police ruled out suicide but were baffled by the lack of evidence pointing to a clear suspect. Clara, Ryan, and Alyssa each had undeniable motives. Clara wanted her children and freedom from Mark's control. The photos Alyssa had taken gave her a reason to silence Mark before the court could see them. Ryan, torn between his loyalty to Mark and his love for Clara, had the most to gain by eliminating the man who stood in the way of their future. Alyssa, realizing that Mark planned to cut her out of his will and expose her financial theft, saw his death as the only way to claim the company's shares promised to her. The investigation unearthed shocking details. Alyssa had withdrawn large sums of cash days before the murder, while Clara's car had been spotted near Mark's home on the night of the crime. Ryan had no alibi, having disappeared from his apartment for hours. The courtroom drama devolved into a circus of accusations. Clara denied involvement, her tearful testimony painting her as a victim. Ryan maintained his innocence but struggled to hide his growing anguish. Alyssa played the grieving mistress while quietly celebrating Mark's death as her financial windfall. The case was never solved. Clara was awarded custody of her children, but her reputation was in ruins. Ryan disappeared, unable to reconcile his feelings for Clara with his role in the scandal. Alyssa took over Mark's company shares, leaving town to start a new life far from the whispers of Westbridge. Mark's death became the cautionary tale of a life destroyed by greed, lust, and betrayal. For Clara, Ryan, and Alyssa, the truth remained buried, leaving the question that haunted everyone: who killed Mark Bennett?